We're now almost 6 months into Donald Trump's second term. How has America's standing in the world changed? I discuss this with three of the most experienced voices in American foreign policy: Susan Rice, John Bolton, and David Petraeus. Susan, I want to ask you to step back, the broader picture here, the United States and the world. The United States is imposing, in many cases, the highest tariffs on its closest allies. It's having the biggest squabbles with Canada and Europe. When you look at the kind of alliances we were trying to build in Africa, the dismantling of USAID probably has some effect there, some negative effect. How much do you think this impedes American leadership?
Enormously. In my view, if you add up all that we're seeing, aligning our interests in bizarre ways with our adversaries, picking wars or fights economically and otherwise with our allies, withdrawing USAID and VOA and all of our tools of global engagement, we are seeing a president that is systematically shrinking us from a global superpower to potentially just a regional great power, like back in the 19th century. And you gotta imagine, with all of his love for Xi Jinping and all of his love for Vladimir Putin, that he may well be content with returning to a sort of 19th century great power division of spheres of influence where, Canada and Greenland and Panama are in our sphere. Let Putin do what he wants with Europe, and let Xi do what he wants in Asia. This is exceedingly dangerous. And withdrawing our global presence through USAID is not just a humanitarian disaster, which is going to cost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives. It is a strategic disaster because the assistance we have provided, whether it's in the health sector, in governance and support for human rights, in security assistance, in all of these realms, helps to mitigate and prevent conflict, helps to keep Americans healthy and protected from infectious diseases that can span the planet, as we've learned the hard way, with devastating consequences. And when we withdraw and allow millions to die, we are not only creating great anger and animosity towards the United States, we are creating a vacuum into which China is eagerly deploying. And that sets us back in very substantial ways globally.
John Bolton, tell us a little bit. Look, you're the only guy who has sat down for hours and hours with Donald Trump. And so we're all trying to, people sometimes ask me, what is the world going to look like? And I always say, we're in this strange moment where to try to answer all these questions is to try to get into the mind of one single human being, because policy is not being made by the National Security Council, it's not being made by interagency processes, and it's being made by this one guy. And so when you think about how he's looking at the world right now, we've got 3.5 years to go. Sketch for us what you think is going to happen. We know one thing, which you've talked about before. He wants to win the Nobel Peace Prize. But other than that, how is this going to play out?
Well, I have no idea. and I'm not troubled to say that because I'm absolutely convinced Trump has no idea. It is really ad hoc and transactional. And we were told the story when I first started at the White House that in the Trump organization, he never made a daily schedule. He would come into his office each day and say, well, what'll happen today? Maybe that's a formula for success in Manhattan real estate development. It's not the way you run the US government. I would say, though, that it's important not to overestimate the damage that Trump is doing. I think the tariffs in particular are shredding decades of American effort to build up credibility, good faith, reliance on us. It's going to be very hard to get them back. But I think it's possible. And I think, just remind everybody of my hero, Edmund Burke, who warned against overgeneralizing from insufficient information. And I remain hopeful. By the 20th, we'll be 6 months in. one eighth of the way through, it's almost over.